And just want to warn you, this episode contains explicit language.
But the one thing that always got me through was that I was never scared, because I took a choice when I said I wanted to do this, and maybe I'll end up poor, but as long as I can do this, and that's what I love, I can never be unhappy. I can never be, it can never get worse than this right now. It can only get better. And so that's what I think a lot of artists know, this feeling. That's where you start to get free.
All right, welcome to The Path Distilled. I'm your host, Kevin Harris. My co-host is Lauren Tashman.
Hi, everybody.
And today we have Gordon and Domnick, and he's the singer for Ripe and Ruin. Welcome to the show today, Gordon.
Thanks for having me.
So could you tell listeners a little bit about who you are and what you guys do?
Yeah, we're a band from Hamburg, Germany. We play alternative rock. I think it's something between, some listeners might know it's something between Biffy Clyro, the Foo Fighters, maybe a little Queens of the Stone Age, whatever you like.
Okay, nice. And how did you first get involved in music?
Personally?
Yeah.
It started off when I was 4. I was kind of a weird child, and so I asked my mother if I wanted to play piano, and she actually got me one. It's not that I grew up very rich or something. Money was always tight, but she said to my dad, "That's a special kid, and if he wants to have a piano, then he shall have one." And so this all started when I was 4, playing piano. Yeah.
And so what did those early interactions with the piano look like?
It was just a mess. I had a Russian teacher, and her name, God bless her, was Olga Sagalov, I think, and she had a typical Russian attitude to her ways of teaching. It was always very strict, and she would always say, "Look up, look up, look on the notes." Was never allowed to look down at my fingers while playing. Very strict regime that she had installed there. So yeah, I stuck with it. There were many times I wanted to quit, but my mom always said, "You wanted this. This was your choice, and you're not quitting." So yeah.
How many years did you stick with that training?
I think probably 12 to 13 years, I guess. I mean, I'm still playing, but with her. And yeah, my mom always said there've been a lot of times where I wanted to quit, especially when I hit especially when I hit puberty. You're more into girls than into playing piano. But she said, "No, man, you're not quitting on this. It was your choice, and you're gonna stick with it." Yeah, but I'm still grateful for that. So.
Yeah. So fair to say, based on what you said about your teacher, that she had you doing very structured practice. Is that correct?
Yeah. Very. I didn't think that it was structured. It was just strict. So she would always tell me to just play up the notes. No improvising. No free music. It was just Russian classic all the time.
Wow. And so how many hours a day were you practicing at this point?
Depended, but from 4 to 5 hours, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, but in comparison to people who really want to learn the piano and who are really practicing, that's not a lot. There are some 3 and 4-year-old children that are practicing like 8 hours a day.
Wow. So what happens next?
What happened next was I learned the guitar, because I realized that you can't pick up your piano and bring it to the park where the girls are. So suddenly I got really into guitar playing. I think it was the one magical moment I saw Jimi Hendrix live at Monterey, with him wearing this huge pink feather scarf and playing guitar like a madman. I was like sitting there in front of the television. I was like, oh my god, what is this? I want to do this. This is what I want to do so bad. I never actually got so good at playing guitar that I can say that I'll be the next Hendrix, but yeah.
So you said, how old were you at this point when you were saying, I wanted to do this?
I think like 14 or 15 years old.
And any particular emotion you were experiencing?
Come again?
Did you experience any particular emotions when you saw Hendrix playing that way?
It was everything at once. I was amazed, stunned, a little scared of what he was doing. I've never had seen anything like it. So I kind of had the same experience as the crowd back in the days. I mean, it was a recording way before I was born, but I think it was a real. It was a real moment, just like the guys that saw the concert back in the days, just blown away, amazed by his raw talent, that he was the way he was playing. I mean, him, it's magical. Yeah.
So when you got the guitar, is his music what you started with?
I tried, but I mean, try picking up a guitar and starting off with Hendrix. It doesn't work that way. No, I made my way through chords and through a lot of blues, and later this whole Hendrix bluesy thing came into being. Yeah.
Were you taking lessons from someone with the guitar as well?
Actually not. I was kind of done with lessons because I wanted to do my own thing, and lessons in my head were always very strict, and I couldn't always do what I wanted to do, and I always had to learn, and it wasn't that much fun. So I just taught it myself. So, if you have the piano and you can just imagine which notes are similar on the guitar. So yeah, it was actually kind of easy to learn in theory, not practically, because playing the guitar hurts.
Yeah.
It really hurts when you start. It hurts your fingers, it hurts your wrists because you're always holding it wrong. I was like, come on, let me get that.
And so how much do you think that early strict piano practice helped with that transition?
It helped a lot. It definitely helped a lot. Rhythmically, harmonically, in every way. Yeah. Not that I liked it, but it helped. Yeah.
So you're learning the blues, you're taking your guitar to the park to impress people. What happens next?
Yeah. People, I would especially say just the girls.
Yeah.
But then next came, I had a little band. I think like every school has this band project probably. Like there's always a band in the school. They have a small room where there are a bunch of shitty instruments. Sorry. Yeah, they're just cheap and it's just rubbish, but you don't know what you're doing, so it's okay. And I had this band, and we had a girl singer, and I always hated the way she was singing. I always hated it. I was playing guitar, and I would always turn up the amp a little louder so that I don't have to hear her that much. And one day, I told her that she was singing a line wrong, and she got kind of mad and told me, yeah, why don't you do it then? And that's kind of the start, because then I did, and everybody liked it way better than what she was doing. So yeah, that was probably when I was 15, 16, shortly after I started playing guitar. Yeah.
So at this point, and I guess up to this point too, what was your motivation for playing these instruments and then starting singing?
I don't know. it's hard to remember because my first motivation was when I was 4. I wanted to play the piano. I don't I'm not really able to remember the exact emotion or the exact moment I had when this happened. So I don't really know. I just always liked it. It's kind of I don't have to think when I'm playing music,
So
especially piano.
I'm assuming the those early songs that you did with that band were cover songs.
Actually, not. We had a few originals.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
Did they?
were shit. They were so shitty. But but I think this is the story of every young band. I think. Of course, we were covering things, but we had a few originals. Yeah, we had ambitions.
And did you like the songs at the time? Those originals?
At the time, I thought this was the best shit out there. Like these 2 or 3 songs we kept playing over and over again. It was just so much fun to have something that's your own. I mean, nowadays when we rehearsing with the band and you just imagine we're in the studio recording the songs, and then you have to listen to the mixes to check if everything's right. Then it gets mastered. Then it gets pressed on vinyl, CD, whatever, and it's out there. You maybe produce a music video, and so you have to listen to the song again. And after that, you're going on tour, playing it again. And at some point, you're like, oh man, I want to do something new. But back in the day, it was just awesome to have something that was just yours. Nobody did this ever before. It may sound like shit, but it's ours.
And so, did the audience like it?
Coming in the audience.
Did the crowd? Yeah.
Yeah, it was more like an early studio project,
Okay.
I guess.
Gotcha.
I mean, we had people back in that room. Of course, it was forbidden to smoke on the school area, but we were the only ones having the key to that room, and it was
Okay.
down the hallway, the last room. So we were always secretly smoking in there, and sometimes we had a few people over that listened to us rehearse, but we never actually made it to a stage where we could play or fill an evening with that mush.
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask, because I was going to ask if you performed for the school or any other areas.
No,
but it sounds like it was just something you guys were kind of doing together.
No, not in that position. I used to play some piano when there was like a school fest or something, but not with that band. I think nobody would have liked that. It's just 4 teens making noise. It was noise. It was not really music. It was just loud. A 15-year-old drummer. I mean, how many are out there that are really good at 15 years old?
Not many.
Not many. I mean, there's this what's his name again? The son of Mike Portnoy. I'm always forgetting his first name. But he was a decent drummer when he was 15. Now I think he's turned 20 or 21, and now he's getting really good. But to find a really good drummer when you're 15 doesn't happen. Sure. It's just always like, oh, noise, yeah, awesome.
Yeah. So what happens next in your trajectory?
Then there was a little musical downtime, I think, because I was wondering what I wanted to do with I mean, I always knew that I wanted to do music, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to make a living out of it. So I always liked writing and thinking about stuff. So I was thinking about getting a journalist. So I started studying politics, actually. And because I wanted to get into investigative journalism. But after, I think it was 6 months, not that long, I realized, okay, I'm not made for this. I'm definitely not made for all these guys sitting around here, uh, um, learning, always saying yes, yes, professor, yes, yes. And I got so angry that I picked up the guitar again. And yeah, the rest is kind of history. So, and that was the breaking point. So from there, uh, I will always choose to make music. Will always choose that path. Yeah, I said to myself at some point, if you got to work like 5 days a week in a bar or at McDonald's, I don't care. I want to do that to be free to do music.
Mm.
Yeah.
And so, is this is this the beginnings of Ripe and Ruin, or is this
Not
later?
actually. That's probably 1 or 2 years later. Yeah.
Okay.
So
So,
what is it?
Met, yeah.
What was it like then making that decision and kind of getting started with it? Where did you start?
Actually, I started. There's a school here in Hamburg, which is called School of Music, and it's a private school actually, because all the music schools in Germany, if they're funded or if they're yeah funded by the state, they always teach classical music or jazz.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't really interested in that. And if you want a degree in pop music, rock music, blues music, you always have to go to a private school. And that's where I met the guys. And I think on the second day, we started making music together. So, yeah.
So how did that come about?
That was actually kind of funny because everyone's back in the days. I mean, we were like 21, 22, whatever. We're still playing very shitty, very, very bad. Compared to today, maybe in 5 years, I'm gonna say, "Oh man, what did I say back in that podcast?" I was still so shitty back in the day. But we were all not that good. And I met the drummer, Yannis. I met him first. Back in the day, I was still playing guitar. Nowadays, I play bass. So still playing guitar, and we were just jamming with the guitar and the drum kit. And soon after, I picked the guitarist, and we had like 5 or 6 guitarists in a year, and he was I think technically he was the worst of them, but different to all the others. They were like experts. Yeah, one could play very was very a good blues player. He got that figured out. And the other one was really good with acoustic guitar. He could do this whole uh, what is his name again? Ben Harper. No, John Butler. I mean John Butler. This whole acoustic, just using the whole guitar, banging with your hand on the chorus, whatever. He got that down, and Florian was just sitting there producing noise. Well, I was kind of used to it already, so I like that. And different to all the other guitar players, he had this fire because he knew that he wasn't the strongest player, so that he had to work twice as hard as everybody else. And is this is something you cannot learn. You either you got it, you got the fire, you got this, I want this so much, or you don't. And out of these 5 or 6 guitar players, he to this day is the only one who's still making music. All the other guys quit at some point, left the school, said, I want to do something else. Guitar is cool, but I don't know. And so it was the best choice.
Do you remember anything specific that you saw in him that led you to that realization about him?
It was this fire. It was this sheer will of not giving up. Yeah. I don't know. It was if it was something special, or if it was something that he said, but yeah, I just remember this feeling of thinking that's the guy, because that's something you cannot learn.
Did this manifest itself mostly in his playing, or was it something that he said?
No, it didn't. It didn't actually manifest in his playing for years, but it was, yeah, it was his attitude and the things that he was saying. He knew that he wasn't at the time not a good guitar player, but he wanted this so bad, and yeah, he did it.
So this is the origin then of Ripe and Ruin. And so what happens next?
I think next we started the band, and the band consisted back in the days out of 5 people. I was playing guitar, Florian was playing guitar. We had a third guitarist, no bass, a keyboarder, and the drummer. Really, really weird combination of people. And we tried a lot of stuff, tried more bluesy music, tried funky music. We always said we don't want to construct something. We don't want to say, okay, what do we want to write? How do we want to sound? We never did that. We always tried stuff. Do we like that? Yes or no? Do we like that? Yes or no? But we never, we never got to the point where we would construct this whole thing. And so we tried out everything. And at some point, the piano player left, and so we were just a bunch of guitarists. And at that point, I started picking up the bass, because I said somebody has to do it, and I'm probably the weakest guitar player of you all, because the other two were natural born guitar players. Their thing, and at that time I was already singing, and it was just playing a little rhythm guitar, so something you can skip. And so I picked up the bass, and I think a year later, the second guitarist went. He had a kind of a mental breakdown, and now he's studying math, and he's becoming a professor from math. So, yeah, and that's where we started, I think, because that was the point where, to this day, these 3 people, that was kind of the birth of the band as it is today. Trying out a lot of things, all these people coming and going in and out of the band, and realizing what's the core and what's really important, and who will never say, oh man, I don't feel like playing right now, can we just rehearse tomorrow? And it was always these 3 guys that always said, no, let's do it tomorrow, no, let's do it today and tomorrow, and the next day after that, let's work, let's do something. Yeah.
And so did this core group, as a group, did you have the goal at that point to try to make a living in the industry at this point?
That's a good question, actually. I have a weird attitude towards making a living out of art. I think when you think that this has to pay off at some point, you're maybe asking too much of the art, because then you're stopping to do it for the art and start to do it for the money. So that's a dangerous path, I think, to shift your mindset into this has to work financially. So I don't think I or we ever did that. Of course, we are working, or we were working a lot of part-time jobs, working in a bar, giving lessons in all these instruments we've learned over the years. But yeah, I don't think that you should do that.
So that's got to be a tricky tension, right? As you are getting more into doing it for a living.
Yeah, it's a tricky tension.
That,
of course, it's a tricky tension, and of course we want to make a living out of it. and we are earning money, but it's I think it just gets dangerous when this becomes your priority. And with art, that should never happen. That's when the art gets shitty. I mean, listen to a lot of second albums or songs that got produced too fast because some manager or some producer said, "Come on, let's go. The first one worked. We need a follow up now."
Mm-hmm.
And the artist isn't ready. The artist has nothing to write about, and you hear a second album or a second song and are just yeah, you're devastated because you love the first one, and now you're getting this, and you can hear the struggle that it's not real. Yeah.
And so the philosophy then would be make the art, and then whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, kind of. But as I said, I think that might be a weird thing as an artist to say, that making money, or I like to eat, so
It is a necessity, yes.
it's a kind of a necessity. So it's a weird thing to say that that should not be your priority. I mean, a lot of artists are in general, I think, underpaid. That's all over the world. There are a few, of course, that earn a lot, an ass load of money, but most artists are underpaid. We work a lot, really, really, really much, like rehearsing, writing songs, producing them on our own. All this thinking that, I mean, I'm working when I'm sitting on the couch and thinking, that's kind of work, and it's something you can't turn off. It's not like you work your shift then you're done. Um, it's just all the time, and so yeah, we're definitely underpaid. But if you want to make music or make art, that is not the point. This financial thing is not the point. You don't decide to make art for the money. Most of the times, I think you decide to do this because you have to. It's not really a choice.
And so your band at this point is, well, I guess I should ask, is it starting to become successful at this point, or does that take some time?
Yeah, of course. It always takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, but I think we're playing in this combination for roughly 3 years now, as a three piece. And in this time, we did a lot of stuff. We released 2 EPs and an album, which is for 2.5 years. It's a lot of songs. Um, we did a lot of shows and everything. Our Spotify game, as I would say, is really running well, and we're getting a lot of positive feedback on it. So it's running really good. But 2020, of course, it's a downer. It's
Sure.
it's the bummer. You have a new album out, you want to present it, you want to sell the records, you want to play, you want to get out there, you want to produce new stuff, and now you're stuck and don't know when things will be back to normal again. Yeah.
And I believe you had over 1 million streams.
Yeah, there was. Oh, now I see a picture. Yeah, that was kind of the starting point. Uh, we recorded our first EP as a three-piece, not expecting anything, and we did it in a small studio of a friend of ours. And after, I think we took like a week or something to record it, and after that we were all kind of pleased with it. I said, yeah, let's just go with clarity. Let's just release it. And I had a guy who is into marketing and does a radio promotion, and he said, let me pitch it for you. I'll pitch it out to Spotify, but don't get your hopes up because it's 5 minutes long. It has a huge intro, it's not going to happen. All the algorithmics that can be wrong are wrong with this. So I'll put it out for you, but don't get your hopes up. And the next day he calls me and said, guess what happens? Now, guess what happened? And yeah, we got on the cover of a playlist here in Germany. And a few weeks after, we got on the biggest rock playlist on the cover in Germany. That's the small one. That was the first. And a few weeks after that, we got the biggest Spotify playlist here in Germany for rock. And that was a really great feeling, not expecting anything and getting way more than you'd expected.
Did you experience a greater amount of pressure?
After that, yeah. Because we caught ourselves doing the exact thing I just said that it's bad. We caught ourselves going like, yeah, we got to produce another one. We got to be fast now because now people are interested they're into it now. Let's move on. And so we produced a second EP very fast. I mean, I'm pleased with the result, but maybe if we would have taken like half a year more of time, we would have ended up with a different result. I mean, the second EP also had a lot of good reviews, went on Spotify, on a lot of playlists and everything. Yeah. But I think we could have taken more time for that.
So were you touring before this hit so big?
I don't think you can call it touring. It was more like over the weekends, few scattered gigs, not really touring. And then it's hard to plan a tour when you're a small band, because you can't really play on a Thursday or on a Wednesday in Cologne when you're from Hamburg and nobody knows you. So you can't really do that.
So what happened after this exploded?
We right after or
yeah,
after?
Right after.
Because right after we got really drunk and celebrated like crazy. I remember that hangover especially. That was one in a million. And yeah, right after we started working again. We were always very straightforward, always working a lot. I think the last 8 weeks were the first 8 weeks in a row that we haven't touched our instruments in 6 years, or 5 or 6 years. It was the first time. We started rehearsing again now last week, but these 7 to 8 weeks, yeah, was the first time we didn't really work.
And I'm curious, do you write the lyrics?
Yeah.
Are you a student of philosophy? Do you read philosophers?
I used to. No, I'm too busy writing songs. No, I read a lot of philosophers. I think when I turned 15 or 16, my German teacher back in the days came to me and said, "You got to read Hesse, Hermann Hesse, Steppenwolf, I think it's called." And after I read that book, I read every other book he had ever written. And then Nietzsche, Schopenhauer, some of the great German philosophers, yeah.
And did you feel that it influenced your writing at all?
Actually, I don't think so. It influenced my way of thinking back in the days, but it didn't influence my writing. I think the lyrics are always dark, kind of, because right now I think one of the most important things that we are facing as human beings is probably the dissonance of the modern world. We're so disconnected although we're so much more connected than ever before, there's a huge dissonance and a huge terror that we cannot really grasp. And there are a lot of things happening all over the world, and a lot of people are feeling this, I think. I mean, if you look at things like depression, at the rate of how many people are depressed in Western societies, I think it's astounding how in a the level of let me so many thoughts, the amount of people and how this level has risen in the last decade or so. Yeah. And so I want to in a lot of songs I want to address this from different points of view, sometimes from my point of view, sometimes from a fictional point of view.
It's interesting because you talked earlier about, it sounds like originally you were very motivated by the enjoyment of music and playing and having a band, and now it sounds like that motivation has shifted a little bit to really putting it in an important message out there.
Do you remember the part where I talked about this in investigative journalism?
Mm-hmm.
I still wanted to do that. I always wanted to write, and I think when you're 14 or 15, everybody's an idealist. Like everybody thinks he can rescue the world, make it a better place. I remember when I was 8 years old, I was sitting down with some magnets and trying to invent a machine that could solve the energy problems of the world. I had like 2 Lego magnets and some glue and an ice cream stick or something. Didn't really work. I'm sorry, guys, couldn't save you. But yeah, that's a kind of the child of these 2 worlds. I just like doing it, but I have a lot of issues that I want to address.
Mm-hmm.
So I was sorry, that was in case you're wondering, obviously the lyrics of, like you said, most of your songs are pretty in depth, but particularly the song "Nothing" struck me as potential philosophical.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that was a bad day. Yeah, there are the good ones, and then there are the bad ones, and then there are these ones. Yeah.
I just blanked on the.
Huh?
Sorry, I just blanked on the author's name, but there's a book called "The Birth and Death of Meaning."
Yeah.
I don't know if it struck a chord with me because I already thought the way that the writer of that book felt, or if that I was young when I read it as well, and I don't know if I influenced or it influenced my thinking, or if I actually was just drawn to it because of the way that I already was thinking. But it kind of struck me as the similar theme.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I haven't read the book, but I guess so. Yeah.
Cool. And so at this point, the momentum's building, and it looks like they also sent a pic where you were at a festival.
Yeah, it's one of I think one of the biggest festivals in Germany. It's a South Side festival. It has a partner which is called the Hurricane Festival. I think this one you might know. It's the same festival, Hurricane and South Side. They have the same lineup, but the Hurricane is in the north and the South Side is in the south. Yeah, yeah, that was great. We due to the this whole Spotify thing, we got together with a booking agency, and they contacted us and wanted to see us live, and so we played down in, I think it was Cologne, Hanover, I don't remember, but they came to our gig and really liked what we were doing, and so they told us that they wanted to work with us, and they booked this gig, and it was amazing. Big stages. It was the main stage of the festival, and that was just really, really fun.
And so, what was going through your mind as you stepped out onto the stage?
Not much. I remember, I remember a few years back, we had a huge gig. It was one of our first gigs, and we were playing in front of a thousand people. A friend of mine back in the days asked me if I wanted to play before his band, her band, and we said yes. And there, I was so nervous, and when I came off the stage, I instantly puked because I was shaking all over. It was just too much. But in this particular case, um, I don't think that I thought much. Just went out there. I think every one of us did it that way. Normally, we talk a lot, we joke a lot, we fool around, and till the very till seconds before the show, and then we go on and do our noise. But in that particular case, we were all really really concentrated and not really talking much, just going out there, not thinking, just do your thing. Yeah, it was a
Did
great
that
gig.
did that have an impact on your performance that day, or
I
did it
think
not?
so, yeah,
Mhm.
because when you start thinking, you and thinking in a situation of pressure, you start to overthink very fast,
Mhm.
and that's a huge enemy when you're playing music. Huge enemy, because in that moment when you just want to pour out all these things, um, when you're singing, when you're playing, you're just pouring it out. And when there are other thoughts going through your mind, it's always distracting.
Mhm.
And so it's probably the best mood you can be in when you're going on a stage and playing in front of a lot of people is to be empty and just to be ready and pour yourself out. Yeah.
So are the plans to just pick up where you left off whenever everything opens back up again to support your new album and things like that?
Actually, not. We're writing on a new one right now, so we're not picking up where we left because I think this is such a strange and interesting, also an interesting time for artists. You might have noticed that we, other than a lot of other artists, didn't do a live stream or a live session or a sofa concert or meet me in my shower with the guitar. Please do not forget me. Um, that's actually a point where it kind of bothers me because I think a lot of people are missing the chance while doing this, scared of being forgotten, that they're missing the chance of feeling this situation and to reflect what it's doing to themselves, to be quarantined for 8 weeks, not to be able to see their family, to be in solitude maybe.
Mhm.
And if you're so busy doing all this everything back to normal stuff, you might miss out on something. I mean, it's not that these might be good feelings, uh, cannot recommend them at all, but they're real and a lot of people have them. So what we're doing at the moment is searching this inspiration, taking this and putting it into new songs. Not really about there won't be a single song that's especially about a virus or especially about solitude, but um, this goes a little further, more like this whole thing. Yeah.
So what do you find particularly uh, challenging about what you do?
Right now or in general?
uh, as a musician in general?
To let go, definitely. To let go, not only to let go of thoughts, as I said earlier, to be in this perfect state of enlightenment when you're going on the stage and you're just empty and can just perform. But to let go of your own things, it has a lot to do with ego. When I write a song, when I write lyrics and we already had a song instrumentally, so we were already playing this, and I came up with the text. This moment to show it to the guys. I mean, I've known them for years now, but it's always hard because it's something that comes from deep within sometimes. And it's hard to let go, not only in front of these guys, but in front of other people. And because this will always happen when you do arts or do anything in front of people. People will judge, and that's their right to do. They can say, I love it or I hate it and you suck and please don't do this ever again to my ears. They're allowed to do that, but it will always be hard, I think, for artists to break down these walls. Yeah.
So what is more difficult for you personally, the ones that really like it or the ones that dislike it?
That's a good question, though. Actually, I'm not bothered by the ones that dislike it because I'm always coming up with a good comeback. Because most of the times, these people just want to get some steam off. They're pissed off because their boss told them that, I don't know, whatever. It's always not coming. It's not my fault that they are angry. I think that's a point where you got to come to when you're doing this. I think I would answer, and that sounds weird. I think it's harder when people really, really love it, because that sometimes it creeps me out. Because sometimes I think to myself, I didn't even like it.
At least as much as they did.
Why should you? Why should you like this? It's a horrible text and it's really loud and I'm screaming. Why are you liking this? I'm just doing to get it out of my system. It's like I'm puking, actually. Just sometimes it has to get out, and yeah, that from time to time is kind of creepy.
And is that just has to get out? Does that occur at the level of writing it or performing it, or both?
Writing always, performing sometimes, and that might be the best performances. I think I've never had an evening where I could channel this feeling. Man, I sound like a guru or something. Channel the feeling. Where you could channel this, where I could channel this feeling for a whole evening, but I experienced it for like over 2 songs or 3 songs, where you're so into this whole feeling and everything fits perfectly together. It isn't only the music, it's the people, it's the air, it's the moisture, it's how things sound, how you're feeling, what you've eaten 3 days earlier. Everything has to be perfect to be in that moment.
So what would you consider the keys to your success?
Not thinking about money is one thing. Not thinking about how we want to sound. I know a lot of musicians and I know a lot of bands, and a lot of them, of course, we have inspirations. Of course, we're not doing a thing that has never been. We're not Kraftwerk, and we're definitely not. I don't know. We're not creating something new, but we're creating something honest, and that's what a lot of people lack. I think a lot of people I know always ask the question first: how do we want to sound? What do we want to do? Instead of just doing it and afterwards checking, is that something that we can do? And we never did that. And so on that level, it's honest. And I think that might be a key to success, to be honest about what you're doing.
It's interesting because so what I do for a profession largely focuses on helping teams and companies and organizations with culture. And one of the first things you get them to think about is their core values and how that is going to drive everything that they do and who they are and what's important to
Yeah.
them and how they make decisions. It sounds
Yeah.
like as a band, you very much have that kind
Yeah.
of core focus and value that drives what you
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. That was something we said to ourselves right from the start. There was one thing that was really clear. I mean, we're not sure if we won't make a reggae album in 2 years. We're not sure if we're super into reggae in 2 years. That's our new thing. I'm Reggae Gordon now. Then so be it. So be it. We're not thinking about that, but more about if it's real at the moment.
It sounds like you have a very collaborative and kind of democratic approach to the band. Is that true?
Yeah, I like them to think that way. Yeah. No, we have a democratic approach, definitely. In the end, I always try, but not in the end. I always try. That sounds too hard. Sometimes I might be a little manipulative. So yeah, when it comes to certain parts, and you wrote a text, and you really want to sing that one word on a special note, and you really hear it in your head, and then the drums have to go like this, and you just know it. And Florian on the guitar says, yeah, but I like this guitar part, it's so cool. Just thinking about the guitar and not thinking about the whole thing in that moment. And stuff. But mostly it's very democratic. Yeah.
So I want to step back just one moment. You talked about being really mindful of not planning too much, and you described that a little bit. Does that feed into your disdain for the hype, as you call it, on your website? Strong disdain.
Yeah, I don't know. This you mean? Can I say fuck in here?
Sure.
Yeah, you mean this fuck the hype, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's it kind of has to do something with it, because the hype is always we imagine it like simple pop music, like just simple things that are out there, that are just like fast food music. People keep listening to it and we don't know why, and it's always some hype behind it. Like I've never really liked Katy Perry's music, for example. Never liked it. She doesn't sing about interesting topics. The music itself isn't that good. When you ever visited a studio and know how these sounds and these songs can be produced so easily when there are not a lot of real instruments involved, and how fast things can go, and how little love is required to put out a product like this, you start to kind of get angry about the resonance that it gets, because you're always thinking, damn, are you all dense? What is happening here? And so we said, yeah, fuck the hype. And of course, it's also to maybe at some point remind us of our own roots, not to give in.
And so I think this dovetails nicely with the next question. What have you learned about yourself throughout your journey?
A lot. I don't actually like to be touring. That I've learned. I really like making music. I love writing songs. I love to rehearse. I love playing concerts, but I don't like touring. And that's because everybody keeps saying, oh man, it must be so nice. You see a lot of people, you see different places, you travel a lot. And I think, and I always say, no, that's just not true. I don't see different places. I see restrooms, a lot of restrooms, different varieties of Burger King, and the venues. So you don't get to see much of the city and the culture and the people. You never get there. You see the sound guy, and that most of the time that's a mean old man that doesn't want you to be there because that's just how sound guys are. I don't know. They're always a little weird. And yeah, then you pack your shit on the stage, play, and get your ass out there. So it's not that great. And you spend a lot of hours in the car. I mean, in the US, it's way worse. It's way worse. Here we gotta drive maybe like 4 or 5 hours from gig to gig. But in the US, as I heard, we last year we played as a support for a lot of US bands like Goodbye June and what's the name of the other band again? I forgot. Whatever. But they told us that they were from time to time having rides for 11 hours or 12 hours just to get to the next gig. And so, yeah.
So I'm assuming
that I learned. That I learned.
Yeah.
No fast food and no touring. These two things.
Do you feel that you've made any sacrifices?
On tour or in the last years in general?
It's a good follow-up. Just to become the musician that you wanted to be.
No, not really, actually. I think I lost a girlfriend on the way because our paths were just yeah, we're just parting. She wanted to do something different, and I was getting more and more into this whole musician thing. Was practicing a lot, was rehearsing a lot, didn't have time. And when I was home, I was still thinking, working on stuff, and not really being there for her. So that might have been something that happened. So yeah, but not really. I think it doesn't. If you're doing it right, it doesn't take much effort to be yourself, right?
Right. So have you ever, you know, the phrase "fake it till you make it"? Have you ever felt like, particularly in the early days, that you were faking anything?
Not really. No. It was all real from the start. We didn't expect much and got a lot. Haven't thought about it yet. I mean, I know the phrase, but we haven't thought about it. I don't know how. I wouldn't know how. What could we do? Give me some tips. I mean, I'm, I'm, I'm open for anything.
Sure.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I have none. But
Yeah.
so, what advice would you give an aspiring musician?
Practice. Just don't give up. If you really want to do it, ask yourself the question if you really want to do it or if it's just something you like. I think there's a major difference between entertainers and artists. Ask yourself if you're an entertainer, and because when you're an entertainer, you can always do it. You can play at weddings, at funerals, at parties, at nightclubs, whatever. And if that's your thing, if that's really what you want to do for the rest of your life, I can't imagine anyone really wanting to be playing funerals and weddings for the rest of their life. It's nice from time to time they have the money, but I did that back in the days, but not anymore. Yeah, ask yourself if you're an artist and if you have a choice, because if you have something to say, then you probably don't have a choice. You have to do it either way. Yeah.
That's
Don't be don't be scared. Don't be scared. Don't be scared to fail.
Brings us to a question that we ask everybody. So Kevin and I met studying expert performance, and really got interested then because of that, this question of nature versus nurture, and are we kind of born to do things, and in the music world, it's born with talent, as you've mentioned a few times, or does the environment or things like that play a role? So if you had to kind of say a percentage for each, this nature versus nurture piece. What are your thoughts on that?
Actually, I've thought about this a lot in my life because my mother has a huge family and a lot of brothers, and all of these brothers are artists in some kind of way. They're musicians, they're painters, sculptors, whatever. It's all do some kind of art. And when I remember, or when I think of the time where I started to play piano, it sounds like a weird story when a 4-year-old boy wants to play the piano by himself. So I thought about this a lot. If I had a choice, or if it's just somewhere in the blood, I don't know. Probably I would say right now 50-50. I mean, I know that's a boring answer, but yeah, I could say something like 90-10, but yeah. No, I think it's 50-50. I had the luck to have the right environment, but I also had the given drive from birth to wanting to do that.
Anything that we haven't talked about that you feel is important to share?
Yeah, I'm starting to bake now.
What are you baking? Everybody says they're baking.
Yeah. I really struggled with my first bread. I made a sourdough, and it's not working. It's just not made for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I love cooking, but I'm really bad at baking. I'm just can't get it right. I always forget something. Forget the yeast and forget the salt, and it tastes like a cracker. It's just a mess, and I wanted to talk about this for a moment. Yeah,
Sure.
I had to get this out of my system. Now the world knows I'm a shitty baker.
Well, hang in there. It'll come around.
Yeah,
I
stopped for the moment. The project is on hold right now.
Yeah, I've done some beer brewing, and they could call that cleaning instead of brewing. If you truly, it's a lot of cleaning. So, what's the biggest takeaway from your story?
That's a very good question. The biggest thing from my story. I think what always got me through everything, because there were times when it definitely wasn't easy because money was very tight, not earning a lot, had to practice a lot, living in a very small flat, and it was just a mess, everything. But the one thing that always got me through was that I was never scared, because I took a choice when I said I wanted to do this, and maybe I'll end up poor, but as long as I can do this, and that's what I love, I can never be unhappy. I can never be, it can never get worse than this right now. It can only get better. And so that's what I think a lot of artists know, this feeling. That's where you start to get free in this moment, when you're stop being scared and stop when you start doing it for yourself and not for other people. I mean, I think the pressure from parents or friends is huge in some people. When your father says you're a disgrace, son, for doing music, when I was your age, you were already born and I had a house, something like that. That's a common story. And to get rid of that fear is always a good choice. And that's what has helped me the most, to free myself and to just follow my path.
Nice. Well, Gordon, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We loved hearing your story.
It has been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
The Path Distilled is hosted by Kevin Harris and Lauren Tashman, created and produced by Kevin Harris. The content is copyrighted by The Path Distilled, all rights reserved.